Kalispera from sunny Cyprus. It's the afternoon here, and I'm out with my glass of pineapple juice, which is a bit of a change from a Costa coffee cup in my hand. I'm Brian White, and I'm bringing you on my path to Paphos, and it's really good to see you here. Now, in this particular one, I'm going to be telling you a little bit about what you need to get prepared if you're coming in on either an MEU1 or an MEU2 form. I'll come back to what they are shortly, but this is some of the things you need prepped, and as I said, I'll come back to those, give you some idea of what I'm going through on that. But before I do that, this is a really good time to say thank you to all those people who've come up and met me. I've been in Marika and me's bar a couple of times on Bar Street in Paphos, and met the fantastic Mr. Paul and Marika, the lovely Marika, and I've met a few people who've come in there. Almost everybody who came into the bar while I've been there has watched my videos, and I'm really, really touched by that. What I'm really bad at, though, is remembering names. So if I don't see your names for now, please forgive me. I'm going to have to keep a little list of all the names of people who I bump into, because it's very rude not to. So my apologies on that. But we had a cracking chat with all the people, both on, when was it, Saturday night and last night. And also I bumped into a guy called, well, I didn't bump into a guy called Tim. I was having lunch in Clorica today, and a chap called Tim came up. If you're watching, Tim, thanks very much. Give me his telephone number. Good chat with him. He's going through the process at the moment of coming to Paphos. He's going down the route of buying a house, the €300,000 golden ticket, where you buy a new house for €300,000. I think you've got to keep it something like 3 years, and that gets you a residence over here. But basically, I'm going to tell you about mine, and keep watching because there's a few interesting points. But I'm going to give you two parts of it, because I'm coming over here as an Irish citizen. And that's really important, because that's made things a huge amount different. So if you're a UK citizen, only UK citizen, please, this video isn't for you. It might be useful, interesting information, because a lot of it is the same, but it's not really for you. You need different paperwork. You need a lot more of it. But I've got hold of this. Now, what I'm going to tell you, this is really important. I do not give advice on these videos. It's not advice. You're following my path to Paphos. You're seeing the good, the bad. You'll find that there's lots of times when I said in a previous video, I'm going to do so-and-so, and then I don't do it. Don't worry about that. This is what's going through my pattern at the moment. If you remember, I did a video about bringing cars over. I've decided I'm not going to bring cars over. In fact, I bought a car, but I'll tell you about that in a different video. So when you're watching these, this is my experiences, which I'm hopefully passing on to you. So don't take these as gospel. They are not gospel at all. These are what I'm going through to try and do my due diligence to getting across. And quite often things will change. So don't plan your journey on that. However, these papers I've got this morning from my legal people, and one thing I would say is get yourself somebody who can look after the legal side of you coming in before you go down the route of making a commitment. Now, I'm using Gwenny's Red Tape Services. There's loads of other ones. I'm not being sponsored by Gwenny's. I'm not at all. And I'm paying them the full amount on this. But this is some of the things that they've given me. And as I say, please, this is the list they've given me. I'm not telling you how to get across. I'm not telling you what to do. You need to contact somebody like Gwenny's, not necessarily them, but anybody else who can really look after the immigration and do you right, because there are so many pitfalls, so many holes to fall into. But anyway, let's get down to this. Now, because I'm an EU citizen, I'm coming in on what's called an MEU1 form, and that is a yellow card. It's what they call a yellow card, but there's different types of yellow card. So I'm coming in on an MEU1, and that gives me a permanent residence over here when it's completed. Now, permanent residence means that the residence is permanent, but I have to renew the card every 10 years. So let's just go down some of the list as to what your legal people will need from you to get this started. So, and why I'm telling you this isn't to undermine them, it's so that it gives you a chance to get everything you need together to make the journey easy. So, documents required before you ever go there. You need a copy of a valid passport or other travel document. Now, of course, if you're coming from another EU country, you'll have the passport from that. Me, I've got my Irish passport, but also you can use the little plastic credit card size passports as well. Perfectly acceptable. You'll need a tenancy agreement signed by the Mukta, and it must be for at least 12 months, plus plus legal stamps, and you need to let your legal people know how much you're paying rent as to how many stamps go on it. Or a contract of sale for a house purchase, plus proof of payment. So if you bought a house, they need the contract of purchase and the proof of payment, or the title deeds. So any of those will do. So either a tenancy agreement, contract of sale and proof of payment, or the title deeds. Third, you need proof of income. Now this has been confusing for me because I didn't think that I actually needed to show any income as an EU citizen, but allegedly I do. So you need proof of income, and it's got to include salaries, pensions, rents, dividends, interest on deposits, whatever it is that is coming in for you. That's what you need to be able to show. Now, I haven't heard about any minimum figure, so I think it's just showing that you can actually sustain yourself. For a Brit coming in, there are certain levels that you have to reach before you can do it. I think it's just this. So basically, copies of any financial documents which show income. You need a certificate of health insurance for medical care, which covers inpatient and outpatient care and transportation of corpse. Not planning on that bit. Plan A valid for 12 months. Now, a lot of the legal people can quote for that. And I've had various people who've asked me, how much is health insurance? And when I've said about 170 to 400, so, is that a month? And I said, well, as far as I was concerned, it is a year. That is a year, but there are different levels of health care. So the minimum legal one, which is basically based on your passport, there's no tests about who you are and everything, that is about 170 maybe, 170 to 400 euros, and that is for the year. Obviously, if you want better health insurance, and I would advise that, then you're starting to pay a lot more. But those figures have been questioned on this in the past. That is what I've said there is for the minimum cover for Cyprus, and that's for a year. Or instead of the certificate of health insurance, if you're working, a certificate of registration of the European citizen, that's with the social insurance services and detailed statement of contributions to the social insurance fund stating the last employer and salary. So in other words, you've got to have basically, you're looking at the equivalent in the UK would be a P60, but it's that. So for self-employed people, a certificate of payment of contributions to the social insurance fund is required for the last 4 months. So that's in there. Now I'm going to be going for the healthcare, but if you are self-employed or if you've been employed by somebody in Europe, then you can use those. If you're working in Cyprus, your employer must sign and stamp the application form. And that's really important because without that, you're not going to get it. Number 5, a letter from the Mukta stating where you reside, and it's going to be less than 1 month old. So the letter is a straightforward letter, and I think I have a copy of said letter here. Let's just see if I can find it while I'm online. You know what'll happen, I won't be able to find it, but never mind. Let's see if I can. So basically all the letters saying we need to, it's from the communal board, and they have to certify that passport number is living and an address, and give their full name, signature and date. But your legal people will be able to give you a properly drafted letter from this. And again, I'm not going to show you my letter because that's for your legal people to do. They'll have their own little ways of doing it, and it's unfair to do them. This is about giving you what's needed, not necessarily how to do it. Contact somebody who knows what they're doing. It's not a great deal of money, and it's well worth it. You need bank statements from abroad for the last 3 months. So in other words, bring a UK, 3 months of your UK bank statements is easy. Quite often you can get them offline. You also need Cypriot bank statements for the last 3 months, signed and stamped by the bank. It says, if applicable. Now, I'm still trying to find out this. I was told that I must have when I was going through this, that I must have a Cypriot bank account. I'm still not convinced because of that, if applicable. So, if not, then great. Now, if you are coming in with your partner, and they're coming in on your UK residency, UK citizenship, like my wife will be because she's a UK citizen, I'm an Irish citizen, you need your marriage certificate with the apostle. It's got to be an apostolated marriage certificate. In other words, apostolation is where you get a countersign, a legal international counter stamp on the back of the certificate that's proof that's right. Now, Sue in the UK is actually doing this right now. It takes about, I think it takes just a couple of weeks to do for the turnaround time, and it's about £40 in the UK. I believe it's done in Newcastle, if I'm not mistaken. So that's it. That's all you need for the MEU1 form. Now, because I'm coming in quite a way ahead of my wife, we're not going to fill hers in as yet. Normally you would do these together, but you would have to have yours going through as the EU citizen before she can start hers. But that's the thing for that. Now, the MEU2. The MEU2, it's a third country national who are family members of an EU or EEA citizen. So in other words, my wife is a family member of an EU citizen, me, and she'll be coming in on this. So what is the definition of a family member? Well, family member can be the spouse or partner who has conducted a civil union with the union citizen. In other words, my wife being non-EU, she's had a marriage to me. It can be a direct descendant who are under the age of 21 or who are dependents of those of the spouse or partners defined in the point. The dependent directly relatives in the ascending line of those of the spouse or partner as defined in the point. In other words, there's going to be a direct descendant. You can't have a sort of cousins and things like that. So what documents are required for this MEU2? And what is an MEU2 anyway? Well, as I say, it's a yellow card which effectively gives the partner the same rights as the bells are ringing. The same rights as the EU citizen has. So my wife will have the same rights as I have insofar as being able to work and insofar as residency. I'll tell you about the residency at the end though. So again, what documents are required for this? Copy of a valid passport or travel document, registration certificate of EU spouse if already registered. In other words, I need to give her my registration certificate, my yellow card to be seen. Again, a tenancy agreement or a contract of sale or title deed, same as any other. Proof of income from both the applicant and the spouse in this one. That again includes salaries, pensions, rents, everything like that. And again, it's just bank statements. But again, I haven't seen anything which details how much that has to be. I don't think it actually has to be any particular figure for the MEU2 either. Again, the same health insurance details, and again, the same working certificate, so it's identical to what it is MEU1. A letter from Mukta stating where you reside, and again, that's the same letter as the solicitor can give you. So again, use the solicitors, they are well worth it. Bank statements from abroad for 3 months. Cypriot bank statements for the last 3 months, signed and stamped by the bank. Again, it says if applicable on this. So I've got a feeling we may not need to have a Cypriot bank. I'm rather hoping we don't. Again, that marriage certificate with the apostillation on, and that is vitally important on this one because this is the person who's coming in on the back of the EU citizen. And you've got to say where you were married. So on the legal ones, they can tell you if you need it apostillated. On mine, because it's because it's UK, they do. And also, additionally, a harmony certificate signed by both in presence of the local mukta in the area that you will be living. And again, the legal people advise and supply that letter. What a harmony certificate is, I don't know. I presume it's something which says we're not going to get divorced for a little while and we're still happy together and still being together. So that's it. Now, I did say about the thing about the MEU2. MEU1 gives me rights to work in Cyprus and to live in Cyprus and to have a residency, a permanent residency, which just needs the yellow card, the MEU1 card, renewed every 10 years. For my wife, she'll come across where I can get mine. I go in to see the registrar and I come out with my card with me straight away. Hers takes about 6 months from the application, and it has to be posted back to her address in Cyprus. So the card will go to her address in Cyprus. She doesn't have to go back in and get it again. Hers is a temporary residence, but it's a 5-year temporary residence. And at the end of 5-year temporary residence, she can apply for a permanent residence, which will be a 10-year card at that point. However, by this, as soon as you start the registration process for both myself and her, we are then exempt the 90 days rule for being in the UK, for being in Cyprus. We can come and go as we please, and we can stay as long as we want while this process is going on. As far as I know, we don't have to take medicals, which if you are a UK citizen, you then have to take the medicals, and there's HIV tests and all sorts of things, and that's quite costly. And when I find out what goes on for the UK version, for the, I think it's the MEU3, I'll let you know on that, because it is a different procedure from what we're going through. But for this one, for an EU citizen, and an EU citizen with a spouse or dependents who are non-EU citizens, that's what you're going to need. Anyway, hope you found this video useful and helpful. I'll be bringing more videos as I go, but until then, this is Brian White saying bye-bye from the Paphos. Bye-bye.